So I put out a video the other day saying that Jordan Peterson was making mountains out of molehills. I stand by that position. I think he's making a load of fuss about nothing when it comes to Bill C-16 and this trans rights issue and this issue of gender appropriate pronouns or whatever. And I'm saying that as a person who identifies as transgender, I identify as bigender. I believe that I'm roughly an equal split between male and female. You know, people who know me know that I'm not a typical masculine guy by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think. I'm not a typical kind of like testosterone raging person. I'm a girly, effeminate boy. And that's who I am. I'm very effeminate. I'm very sweet and lovely and you know, gentle, I think, and soft-hearted and squishy and gooey and lovely and all that sort of nice stuff, girly stuff, typically, I think. Yeah, so I don't believe anyone has a right, including a transgender person, to any kind of new form of pronoun. I don't believe in any kind of these whatever pronouns, the new ones apparently. I don't think you're even entitled to the pronoun they. I think if you're a transgender person, you should make up your mind and stick with either he or she. But I think once you've decided on which it is, out of he or she, I mean, so I would be both he and she, but I reject they as well. I don't want people referring to me as they. It's almost like I don't exist if I refer to as they. Or like, oh, they're doing this or that, so and so. Who the fuck would actually say that shit? Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, but it nonetheless is a molehill, and I believe that Jordan Peterson making a mountain out of it, and likewise by reacting to Jordan Peterson, all those semi-indoctrinated radical leftist ideologue teenagers at the university that he was railing against, that they are also making mountains out of molehills, I think. Making a mountain out of the molehill that is Jordan Peterson, although perhaps on a level Jordan Peterson has become a sort of mountain, a sort of mountain of niggling and arbitrary reactionary hate for nothing more than, well, a quibble. This is a mere quibble over fucking pronouns. Like, should you have a right as someone who identifies as a woman, a trans woman, should you have a right to your pronoun? Yeah, you should, I think, definitely. And that should be upheld in law. Yeah, absolutely it should be. But it should be upheld in law, in the spirit of the law that Bill C-16 was all about. It was all about the governing laws for institutions and organisations and public bodies and things like that, rather than for individuals. And Canadian legal expert, when Jordan Peterson was going out, crafting his shtick and his attention-seeking stuff to try and get a platform to sell his self-authoring program and then to sell his self-help books, she pointed out that it wasn't going to enforce compelled speech on everybody else. However, in addition to having said that, I don't believe that anyone has a right to force anyone else to acknowledge their pronouns, if you see what I mean. So, maybe this video is going to get taken down as a kind of a hate speech thing. I bet it won't, though. I bet it won't, and I bet I won't receive any kind of legal blowback for anything I'm saying in this video. I don't think you have a right for an entire population or every individual within a population to acknowledge your pronouns. However, when it comes to public bodies and organizations operating in a given locale or society, I think in the professional spheres, in the public spheres, or in the sphere of public operations within either public sector organizations or private sector organizations, yes, they should acknowledge your pronouns. Yes, they should. And it's an area of law that deals with a different sort of strata of organization in society, and that's companies, public institutions, these sorts of organizations. The workplace is really where these sorts of laws become more applicable. But in your private life, in your personal zone, sphere, in your own home, and in your own capacity as an individual private citizen, I believe likewise that you're entitled to whatever views you like, including not acknowledging gender appropriate pronouns. If you don't feel like acknowledging that, that's also fine. So like, it does it enforce compelled speech on people? Like, it enforces compelled speech on organizations and their representatives. So I think it's, well, yes. Is it compelled speech? Like, yeah, it is compelled speech. Sure. But then again, what it really amounts to is more like enforced politeness. And yeah, I think it's an important step forward to acknowledge pronouns in those sorts of zones. Because the alternative is worse, I think. The alternative is that, you're suddenly sanctioning the behavior of individuals working within companies, in a sort of a workplace environment. You're suddenly sanctioning their reactionary and bigoted opinions and allowing all sorts of workplace bullying and discrimination to occur, very possibly as a result of people not at least having that reminder in law that, in a given environment, in a professional sphere, in a professional capacity, they do have to acknowledge pronouns and things like that. So I think it's a good step forward. I think there's nothing wrong at all with Bill C-16. And as ever, well, I think the likes of Jordan Peterson, who's in a politically and legal sense somewhat naive, it seems to me, like, doesn't understand that we have things such as the rule of law, which is something that he's benefited from his entire bloody life, yet doesn't really understand. Doesn't understand that, very much unlike the show trials of the Soviet Union and the way that the Soviet Union's political architecture operated is incredibly different to how modern day Canada operates. He can't concede that much, at least, and doesn't appreciate that there are free, fair, open, democratic societies in the world, and that the cause of the problem in the Soviet Union was Joseph Stalin and his antecedents, and not really kind of their analogue of the blue-haired activist leftist brigade, who, by the way, under Stalin would have all got sent to the Gulag, and that is sort of what happened there, I think. And Alexander Solzhenitsyn got swept up in all that stuff. So no, like, that would be my final word on it. As a trans person, I'm entitled to nothing, actually. not in an absolute sense, but in the workplace, in professional zones, how I'm treated by organizations, by public bodies, and by businesses. Yes, they do have to acknowledge my pronoun, and I believe that's a great step forward for, well, human rights and human dignity and progress. I think it's a good thing. But yeah, individuals in a personal capacity, capacities. Oh, for fuck's sake.